Hi, I'm Kyle Malnati, and I'm the broker-owner of Calibrate Real Estate, which is locally owned and operated here in Denver. The Colorado Association of Realtors asked me to present to you about why I like podcasting and what I've learned. So we're going to go through 5 easy steps. Here's an example of what my podcast looks like. It's a video show, and these are several of my guests. After doing about 36 podcasts, I'd love to show you my intro so you can get a sense for what my podcast, The Kyle Malnati Show, feels like. Here's that clip.
This is The Kyle Malnati Show. Our podcast provides an opportunity to expand your knowledge, and it's our goal to make real estate investing more approachable to everyone. Each episode, we tap into the mindset of real estate experts and share their stories.
Isn't that fun? Well, so as you can see, I enjoy interviewing people, especially in the space of real estate investing, and you can see that on the screen here. So the first question I always get when I talk to people about my podcast is, how do you even start? What do you need to think about? Well, you got to have a goal, and I'm very goal-oriented. The goal would be to display your expertise, but not in a way that it makes it all about you. So having an interview and talking to someone else gives you the ability to communicate while having someone else share their ideas and thoughts, and so it doesn't make it so much about you. Pick a topic and content that you already know how to discuss on a daily basis. It should be something that you can fluidly talk about to others, and that'll show as you're doing your episode. The format. Pick whether you want audio or video. I happen to choose video. Lots of podcasts are done by audio, and those podcasts for audio tend to be a little bit longer. I chose video because I feel like I present well in video. Whatever medium you choose, make sure it works for you. Frequency. Decide up front how many times you want this podcast to air. When you start to really advertise your podcast, people are going to expect that you're doing it on a regular basis. So I started monthly. You could certainly do it more than that. After a period of time, after I got better at the podcast, I did it bi-weekly. I did it every 2 weeks. So the next step is equipment. Now, for the purpose of this presentation, I'm not going to go into what type of equipment I use because it's always changing as our software and hardware change and technology constantly develops. But recording is going to be key. Try to get the highest level of recording from an audio and visual standpoint within your given budget. Especially if you don't have advertisers, I would recommend trying to keep this pretty simple and maybe just doing it on your smartphone, which is how I do it. Location. Where you record is probably a lot more important than you think. From my experience, you want to be creating a comfortable environment and a consistent environment that you and your guest will be able to make this show happen. Editing. Be prepared that the editing process takes way longer in many cases than the actual recording of it. Fortunately, in this day and age, we've got recording and editing technology that's really easy to use and very user-friendly, but it will take you a long time to edit. So make sure that you've built in time for that as you launch your podcast. Delivery. Never start a podcast without having a back-end advertising in mind. So you're going to have to be willing to share it to social media, to your blog, through email marketing. And if you're not willing to do it, there's a guy named Michael Hyatt who's a wonderful thought leader in this space. It says you're actually being selfish if you take that much time to create something and then don't share it with the world. Can you imagine an artist that never shares his paintings with the world? That'd be silly. How and who do you interview? How do you pick these people, and then who are the people? Well, I would say you obviously want to have someone that's an expert. You're an expert yourself, but make sure that this person is an expert in the area that you want to talk about. As your podcast becomes a lot more popular, you're going to be requested by other people who want to be sharing your platform. So make sure it's someone that you feel like has the same agenda as you. A relationship, if you can meet this person in person, that would be wonderful. A lot of times I interviewed my own clients and I had a working relationship with them, which created a rapport. There's also a suggestion by Timothy Ferriss, who's a famous author and podcaster, that even if you can hop on a video chat or FaceTime or something like that with them prior to the interview, that helps build rapport, which is my next point. Make sure that you and your guest understand and communicate well with each other. Finally, what does it take to prepare for a podcast? Well, the preparation before you actually do the show is really, really important. The opening, think of your favorite shows, whether it's on TV or radio. They all have great openings. You need to close it well. A lot of times people will share a quote at the end of the show or maybe have some music. The next step is questions. The questions are key. A lot of the content gets created around the questions. So I would suggest, one, You make sure that you rehearse your questions. You make sure that you, 2, consistently use the same questions. And 3, give those questions to your guest in advance. It makes it easier for everyone involved. Then rehearse. I'm a big proponent of rehearsal. After doing over 30 podcasts now, I've learned that my podcasts are much better after a couple of trial runs. So practice your lines solo. Then when the guest arrives, make sure that you give them an opportunity to do the Q&A together. Then time. Decide in advance how long you want this presentation to be, because even the best podcasters have a limit on the amount of time that they use. So showtime. You're actually doing the podcast recording. What do you want to think about? Remember, you are a host. You've got to be engaged. You've got to be excited. You've got to bring your energy and enthusiasm to it. If you can't be excited about your podcast, no one else will. So make sure that you're excited. Comfort. Make sure you create an environment that's comfortable for not only yourself, but for the guest. Make sure your guest has adequate water. Make sure they take a bathroom break before they record. Notes. The best interviewers work off of scripted notes. Make sure you do the same. Purpose. Everything that you do in life needs to have a purpose. And so make sure that you assure your guests that your goal of the show is that they come off looking good and that you obviously look smarter as well. And so make sure that everybody understands this. I'm not a big believer in gotcha media or trying to catch someone. This needs to be a positive and encouraging type of event. Then there's magic. That's that thing that you see if you've ever been to Disney. Disneyland, Disney World, any of their parks does a great job of creating this magic in the environment of a show. So make sure that when you're doing your podcast recording that you encourage, you educate, and you empower your fans. Here's a couple of examples of actual realtors I've interviewed. Bo Mankitti, we were in Chicago, Illinois at the National Association of Realtors here. Dwayne Duggan, this was at his office in Boulder. Dwayne is an author of a book called Realtor for Life. Todd Narlinger, the broker owner and my former co-worker of Madison and Company Properties. Bo Mankitti and I joined each other in Washington, D.C. for a second edition. Dave Thiefalt's a retired realtor that spent 30 years here in Colorado doing real estate sales. Kendra Todd is so famous. She's from Seattle, and she was famous because she was the winner of The Apprentice. Then I've got Ron Cathell. Ron Cathell is based out of Washington, D.C., and these are just some examples of realtors that I've interviewed. Thank you for your time. Thank you for watching this video. You can contact me at the information that you see here on the screen. I'd love to connect with you on Facebook. Please follow us on YouTube, and you can always check out my blog, which is kmalnati.wordpress.com. Thanks so much. I'm Kyle Malnati.